You are listening to Second Chance Ministry Radio.
Brilliance Audio presents the unabridged recording of Discovering God, Fresh Vision for Longing Hearts by Dan Meyer. Performed by Tom Parks. Introduction. Have you ever met someone who seems to live a life so beautiful and good that it made you wonder, how can I develop a life like that? When I think of such a life, one of the people who comes to mind is A.W. Tozer. Aidan Wilson Tozer grew up in the early part of the last century. While walking home from his job at a tire company one day, the teenaged Tozer heard a street preacher say, "If you don't know how to be saved, just call on God." The invitation struck something deep in the boy. "Help me know you, God," he prayed. That began one of the greatest journeys of discovering God ever recorded. Though he had no formal theological training, Tozer set out to learn from the Scriptures everything he could about the nature and personality of God. That process of inquiry completely transformed his life. He went on to pastor the Southside Alliance Church in Chicago for some 30 years. Tozer wrote more than 40 books, among them The Pursuit of God and The Knowledge of the Holy, now widely regarded as great Christian classics. Though his intellect and leadership brought him tremendous fame and wealth, Tozer was known for maintaining a remarkably sane and simple life. He and his wife Ada never owned a car, preferring to take public transportation in order to have more time to observe God's creation, ponder life, and talk with regular people. To the very end of his days, Tozer signed away the majority of the royalties he earned from his published works to help people in need. In one of his books, Tozer wrote something that still challenges me today. What comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us. Man's spiritual history will positively demonstrate that no religion has ever been greater than its idea of God. Chuck Colson said that no culture has ever been greater than its idea of God either, because it is the cult of beliefs that gives rise to a culture. A society will be as pure or base as the people within it entertain high or low thoughts of God, said Tozer. For example, if we believe that there is no ultimate standard for life and love, or if we think God is like an indulgent grandfather, then our morals will tend to become primarily matters of convenience or fashion. If our dominant idea of God is that he is an angry judge, it will create in us a psychology of anxiety, or maybe a religion of jihad. If we think of God as a distant deity, largely unconcerned with human life, or as someone content with being our celestial 911 service, or as a being particularly enamored with our party, nation, or tribe, this too will profoundly shape the way we move through life. We conduct our religion and politics, our parenting and working, our hating or relating with others, out of the ideas about God that we consciously or unconsciously hold. What comes into your mind when you think about God? If Tozer was right, then your answer to that question is the most important thing about you. In his wonderful book, The Good and Beautiful God, James Bryan Smith suggests that our particular ideas about God are formed fairly early in life. They are shaped by the narratives and experiences of our family, our society, and the religious circles we inhabit. Smith contends that once these understandings of God are in place, they determine much of our behavior, whether they are accurate and helpful or not. Once these stories are stored in our minds, Smith adds, they stay there largely unchallenged until we die. They tend to run us or ruin us, says Smith. These false ideas of God also affect our society on a larger level. As wonderful as life is in so many respects, many of us look at our world today and wonder how we are ever going to fix the messes that afflict our world. Once again, Tozer pointed to our fundamental need for a fresh vision of God. Observing the societal troubles that were even brewing decades ago, he wrote, "The decline of the knowledge of God has brought on our troubles. If we would bring back spiritual power to our lives, we must begin to think of God more nearly as He is. A rediscovery of the majesty of God will go a long way toward curing what most ails us at the present time." I invite you to take a journey to discover God, much like A.W. Tozer did. This audiobook looks to the Bible for a vision of God, not the God we may have gotten locked into seeing long ago, but the God who really is, the God who Jesus knows and reveals. In the process, we'll explore the following 7 biblically grounded statements about God, what Christian theologians call the attributes of God. God is self-sufficient. God is good. God is trustworthy. God is holy. God is self-sacrificing. God is present and powerful. God is worthy. Obviously, these aren't the only attributes of God mentioned in the Bible, but they reveal the God we see in the person of Jesus Christ. As you explore the nature of God, it's my hope that you'll get a fresh vision of God that will alter your life for the better, just as it did for A.W. Tozer and countless others through history.
You are listening to Second Chance Ministry Radio.